Yes, Virginia. It seems there really might have been a Christmas party at Downing Street. The video shows staffers at number 10, not at the actual party, but rather days after the alleged event, laughing and joking about how to explain the gathering should anyone find out. One senior aide resigned within hours of the video being made public, and calls are growing louder for the Prime Minister to step down as well. Boris Johnson has apologised. He has ordered an internal investigation, repeatedly insisting there was no party at Downing Street a year ago when the rest of the country was under strict lockdown. CNN's Selma Abdelaziz has the latest now, reporting in from London.
Allegra Stratton, the spokesman for Downing Street, became a household name overnight in the UK. On Wednesday, she resigned on her doorstep.
My remarks seemed to make light of the rules that people were doing everything to obey. That was never my intention.
The senior British government official made headlines, appearing to mock COVID rules and joking about a Christmas party last year.
I went home. His fictional party was a business meeting. And it was not socially distanced.
If true, it would be a brazen violation of COVID restrictions. This video, obtained by CNN affiliate ITV, shows aides rehearsing for a briefing 4 days after the alleged party. But while Downing Street staff giggled on the video about cheese and crackers, the UK was in the grips of a deadly rise of COVID-19 cases. Safia was caring for her elderly father that day. She says he contracted coronavirus during the Christmas period and later died of the virus.
We had 5 people at my dad's funeral. I was able to actually be with my dad when he died. Me, my mum, my brother were able to be there, which I consider a huge privilege because so many other bereaved family members didn't have that opportunity.
On December 18th alone, the day the Downing Street party allegedly took place, more than 500 people were reported dead from COVID-19 in the UK.
Everyone needs to start leaving now!
And this is how police handled other festive gatherings, cracking down and handing out spot fines.
Prime Minister!
For days, the Prime Minister maintains that no party even took place.
All guidance was followed completely.
That's not true. What I can tell you is that all the guidelines were observed.
On Wednesday, the Prime Minister told Parliament he would launch an investigation, but admitted no wrongdoing.
Because I was also furious to see that clip. But I repeat, Mr. Speaker, that I have been repeatedly assured since these allegations emerged that there was no party and that no COVID rules were broken.
So the British people put the health of others above themselves and followed the rules. Isn't the Prime Minister ashamed that his Downing Street couldn't do the same?
The day after the alleged party, Boris Johnson effectively cancelled Christmas for the entire nation, limiting gatherings. 2 days later, most of the UK was back under Tier 4 restrictions, essentially a full lockdown.
London, Victoria.
Now, as the country once again is fighting a variant, Omicron, many are asking if the Prime Minister has the moral authority to lead the country. Salma Abdelaziz, CNN, London.
CNN European Affairs commentator Dominic Thomas is with us now from Växjö in Sweden. Dominic, good to see you.
Thank you, John.
So here's a little more from Boris Johnson at Wednesday's Question Time in Parliament.
I understand and share the anger up and down the country at seeing number 10 staff seeming to make light of lockdown measures. And I can understand how infuriating it must be to think that the people who have been setting the rules have not been following the rules.
And that's the point, putting aside all of the politics of this scandal, the real issue here seems to be the damage done to the public's trust in this government just as tougher pandemic guidelines are being introduced. It's a case of don't do what I do, just do as I say, right?
Yes, that basically sums it up, John. I mean, what we have learned over the past 2 years is that competent, consistent messaging from the authorities has been absolutely crucial in stemming the growth and the dissemination of the virus. And we have great success examples in places like Finland, for example, and New Zealand. That's not always been the case. We do know that in areas where you've had competent leadership, I'll take Germany as an example as well, that has not always worked out in the best way. But what we do know for sure is that incompetent leadership, inconsistent messaging has contributed to worsening the situation. And when we look at the UK now, with over 150,000 deaths, it is absolutely clear that there's a correlation between the lies and the mishandling of this and the inconsistent messaging of Boris Johnson's government here. And what we can just only hope is that the British people are being increasingly resourceful in taking hold of these measures and not waiting for the government to provide these. But unfortunately, this inconsistent messaging does mean that it's going to continue to disproportionately impact those people that throughout this process have been misled and underserved by this government.
Well, now we get to the politics, and for that, here's some more from the leader of the Labour opposition. Listen to this.
No one was dreaming of a Zoom Christmas, turkey dinners for one, gifts exchanged at service stations. But the virus was out of control. 489 people died of COVID on the day of the Downing Street party.
This time last year, when thousands of fines were being written for breaching COVID restrictions on gatherings, this was the Christmas which Boris Johnson cancelled, but he seemed to get some credit for making the tough calls. Is all of that now undone? Has he just cemented a narrative, of the rule for the Tories, a rule for everyone else?
Yes, and I think that has been not just, I don't think just for the Tories. I think that for the Tory leadership and for a certain kind of entitled leader, which is really what this is, which is all about. What's so striking about this, though, is that there's really nothing new about this. I mean, his closest advisor, Dominic Cummings, came public and talked about the sort of the gross mishandling, the ignorance of Boris Johnson's administration, the ongoing corruption scandals and so on. And yet, let's not forget, this is a prime minister who essentially came to office on the heels of a misinformation campaign of lying to the British people about the impact of Brexit and so on, and ended up essentially winning an issue on a single issue. This has never been a government that's been about policy, that's been about transforming the situation and improving people's lives in the UK. And the sense of entitlement is reflected, I think, in all of the behavioural patterns of this particular government. And yet it still succeeds in holding on to power.
But there is this growing criticism now of Johnson and the leadership from within his own party. They're calling this leaked video indefensible and catastrophic. A recent poll just came out, a majority believing the Prime Minister should actually resign, and a third of Conservative voters feel the same. Assuming this controversy does not get any worse, will Johnson survive, and why would anyone assume it won't get any worse?
Yeah, why would they not assume this is just simply another chapter in the Boris Johnson prime ministership? What's so absolutely extraordinary, back to the previous point that I made, is that it seems to the overwhelming voting public that Boris Johnson's private behaviour, his inconsistent messaging and so on, are secondary to the fact that he delivered Brexit, are second to the fact that he delivered this massive majority for the Conservative Party. And at this particular stage, the opposition itself remains divided and seems incapable of mounting some kind of opposition to Boris Johnson that would potentially undermine him. Now, around him in these sort of dangerous waters, he essentially serves at the will of the Conservative Party at this stage. And it would be up to them to make a decision as to whether or not to remove him. But once again, he delivered this massive majority. They are in control. They seem to be at this stage untouchable. When the fall comes, it will be rapid. But there's no reason to believe at this particular stage that this latest chapter will lead his closest people around him to undermine him and remove him when the path ahead for them remains uncertain. They have this majority and they ultimately control the agenda and the narrative about these questions.
Dominic, it's good to have you with us. Thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, John.